If I could move on, as I said at the beginning, we're sort of focused today on some of the allegations which are raised against the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. And this is one which has been raised before, and I'm sure it'll be raised again. But what we hope to do today is give the definitive answers once. It's not that it's not been given again, but we'll do so for the benefit of our viewers. And again, this is a question which has been raised, and I'll, for you gentlemen, just go through the question. First and foremost, Munir Sabai, perhaps bearing in mind your background, I'll come to you on this, but the questioner asks, are Ahmadis agents of Israel? And his basis of asking this question is, you have a established mission in Israel, and unlike other Muslims on whom there are lots of restrictions, your Jamaat members are allowed to live peacefully in Israel, and they're even given freedom to speech, freedom of movement, and are highly regarded. Your TV programs are being televised from Israel. Well, this one, viewers, is certainly from London, I assure you, which proves the links. Munir Saab.
Well, I'd like to point out it's quite ironic. Every appointed agent has a purpose to serve. I mean, whether we refer to being British agents during the Promise of Salatu Salam's time, what is the purpose that we're serving now, 100 years later? And the same thing goes for being British or Israeli agents. And what is the purpose that we're serving for the Israeli government or any of that side? It's worth mentioning. I think it shows a lot of the people are not aware of the geographic divisions of that area, nor the demographics involved in there. Within the 48 borders, what is
that's the
called,
1948 borders.
What is
when Israel was
now
created.
What's under the Israeli government now.
Yeah.
There are over 1 million Arabs. I say Arabs, who include Muslims, Sunni Muslims, Shia Muslims, Christians, and other Arabs of other faiths. Now, the state does not see those people anything else but Arabs, and they're all treated the same. And they are citizens of that state. They're giving the right to vote, and they're giving the freedom to move around. And there are over 1 million Arabs. And our community, our Jamaat, does exist within the 48 borders, and in the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip. It is also important for everyone who comes across this question. Our Jamaat was founded years before the Israeli state was founded, and the second Khalifa radiallahu ta'ala anhu has visited Baitul Maqdis, has visited Haifa and other places of the Arab world, and Jamaats, individual Jamaat members existed from that time. The first one was established organized Jamaat was established in Haifa, in Kababir, in the early 20s.
So that's a very important point. Historically, let's just get that into context. 1948, according to the UN, and the State of Israel was created, but the Jamaat was established decades before, officially as a registered entity. And that continued after 1948 within the new confines of the new state. Okay.
And all Arabs in the first degree define themselves as Palestinians, whether they live within the 48 borders or outside the 48 borders. We feel the same way towards the Palestinian cause, and there is no exceptional favors given to the Ahmadiyya mission within the state of Israel. We operate within the 48 borders. We operate in the West Bank. We have our community which is set there, and we have a mission house there also. And the same thing with the Gaza Strip. In the Gaza Strip, the members of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community existed way before the state came into play as well.
Okay. Azar, if I could come to you, I mean, there's somewhat of an ironic assumption made. Ahmadi Muslims are allowed to live peacefully in Israel. Surely it's the citizen living peacefully rather than being allowed to live peacefully in Israel.
Yes. Again, this is an eye-opener. Just the statement alone of someone who is from the land, expressing the history of the people and how they view themselves, so that the context cannot be lost sight of, that we hear the issue of Palestinians. For the Muslim world, it is such a sensitive issue.
Indeed.
It creates a knee-jerk reflection that automatically, if someone is not in favor what we believe are persecutions against this and oppression against this section of humanity, Muslim world, then they are the enemy, because your friend is my friend, but your enemy is my enemy. The Ahmadis, therefore, are somehow being linked to this natural sentiment that is created in the masses by saying that they are the enemies of the state of Israel. But the reality is that we are, in terms of a community, linked there as citizens, linked to any nation, as I would be an American as well as an Ahmadi.
Indeed.
I would be a citizen of my nation. I would uphold whatever's going on in my nation based on the laws, and I would be asked to abide by the basic setup of the land, either that or to migrate and adopt a new land.
Indeed.
That's for everyone in the world.
Of course.
So it's truly unjust to point to us and say somehow we are linked to a nation, or we have nationalistic causes, or we have a hidden agenda to undermine countries and nations and peoples. This cannot be the role of a prophet of God who comes to, in fact, unite and link mankind. But it's the sentiment.
Of course.
And the other thing which, again, really should be pointed out, in terms of a community, though we are as I say, a community that has a religious focus, we have been concerned for the downtrodden, oppressed peoples of the world. And we have raised our voices in humanity wherever we have seen this cause. Palestinians were not outside of that scope.
Indeed.
It is a proven fact from the history of the creation of Israel. The foremost advocate of attempts to prevent this state from coming into being, and not an agent of one who wanted to bring it into being, was Shahid Kamal, an Ahmadiyya Muslim himself. He advocated the cause so beautifully in the United Nations,
Indeed.
so forcefully for the Arabs. They themselves, in that early record, have commended him. King Hussein of Jordan gave him the Star of Jordan.
And that's indeed
you
the
will not
highest
give
honor.
the Star
Yeah.
of Jordan to one who you perceive to be an agent.
Indeed.
It's impossible. And this is just one of the recognitions he received. He received so many. How could they fail to perceive a member of a community that is an agent of Israel as opposed to a person who was trying to undermine the Palestinian cause? They are not ignorant people. They're Arabs. They know, as I would know as an African American, who was advocating for me and my people when we were enslaved.
Indeed.
You didn't have to tell me this person was in favor or not in favor. I knew it. And you can tell quickly, just from what's happening, whether the person is true or is insincere. So this, I believe, is something that's quickly lost sight of as we're working on sentiments of the Muslim world, and Muslims fall prey to those sentiments, unfortunately.
And indeed, and in Chaudhry Zafrullah Khan Saab's example, here was a man who fought as part of the independence in India. So the earlier question we had on the whole focus of the being British agents, and here was then the same man who spoke very passionately and a great advocate for the rights of the Palestinian people. Both, not just, he was actually at the United Nations and spoke, as you said, in most eloquent and powerful terms in defense of the rights of the Palestinians. So how ironic on both those principles in one man, who was a passionate follower and devotee of Hazrat Promised Messiah Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. Just in that one man's example, we, if you like, we turn both arguments round and say, well, it was quite the opposite.